Hello and welcome to episode 5 of the Packs to Cube series here on the Collected Conjuring channel. I will be your host, as usual. My name is John Kaz. Later on in the episode, we'll be joined by Dom the Bearded Guy for deck building and overall keeping me in line. So, today's set is going to be Throne of Eldraine, but before we start talking about Throne of Eldraine, let's do a quick summary of the decks that we have built so far for the cube. We have gone through 4 sets: Guilds of Ravnica, Ravnica Legions, War of the Spark, and Core Set 20. Out of those sets so far, we have a pretty even deck dispersal, except for green, which is a little bit surprising because green is usually one of the colors that I like to play in Limited when I'm doing something super greedy, or I want a base green deck that can search for lands of different colors and basically just play whatever the heck that I want. So I'm sure that'll change at some point. We'll probably start building green decks more often and get some more of those into the cube, but that is something interesting so far that I thought. So back on to Throne of Eldraine. Throne of Eldraine is a set that is based off of fairy tales and off of Camelot and knights. So there's knight themes, there's fairy tale themed cards. Overall, it's a pretty cool design of the set. As usual, I'm not going to go into too much detail about everything, but I will post the link to the MTG wiki in the description of the video. So if there's anything else you want to read about Eldraine, everything is there. There is one type of card that I did want to call out, though, because it's a little bit unique and different from a lot of things that they've done in the past, and that is the adventure cards. So the adventure cards are all technically creatures in any zone, but if you're casting it from your hand, you can cast it for its adventure cost first and get some sort of benefit. So like Ardenvale Tactician taps 2 creatures. Bonecrusher Giant was one of the stronger ones. That one deals 2 damage to any target, and damage can't be prevented. And Brazen Borrower is probably the most powerful and is actually used in a lot of constructed formats. It is a bounce spell on the adventure cost. So then after you cast a spell, one of these spells for its adventure cost, it goes into exile, and then you can cast the creature later from exile. So it's basically like 2 cards in one if both of the adventure half and the creature half are both relevant. They're very good cards. And like with Brazen Borrower, it's a bounce spell on one side and then a flyer with flash on the other side. Both of those things are pretty good. Same with Bonecrusher Giant. On the left, it's the 2 damage spell for 2 mana, and on the right, it's a 4/3, and whenever somebody targets it, it deals 2 damage to the spell's controller. So it's both a relevant creature and a relevant spell, which makes that card very, very good. Anyhow, we're not going to go into any more detail here. As I said, the details will be, the link to the Magic Wiki will be in the description of the video, and let's go and rip some packs. Hello and welcome back to the Throne of Eldraine episode of Packs to Cube, and now we're going to open some packs. Giant Killer, good removal. Grumgully is a pretty interesting card as a build around for non-human decks. Fairy Guidemother is good if half of it, the adventure half, is a pump spell, and then creature is flying. Royal Scions, my kind of card. Foulmire Knight is good in Knights decks. I missed the Cercara at the beginning. That's another limited bomb. And then we had a Scorching Dragonfire as premium removal. Reeve Soul is okay removal. Castle Lochthwain is good in the late game if you're running out of cards. 2 Tempting Witches in that pack. makes me think we might end up on some sort of food theme. Return to Nature, very versatile sideboard type card, so it'll probably end up making the cube somehow, even if it's not in one of the decks that we end up building. Wicked Wolf, premium card in limited. Inspiring Captain is good if we end up in some sort of Knights deck also. Inspiring Veteran. 7 Dwarves, so we open a bunch of those. I'm definitely playing them. Feasting Troll King is a limited bomb that is definitely going in one of our decks. Witch's Oven, if we end up in some sort of sacrifice themed deck, would be perfect. Trail of Crumbs is a nice build around for the food deck. Lets you see more cards. Glass Casket and Ardenvale Tactician will go in any white deck we end up playing as premium removal, and then Ardenvale Tactician, sort of a tempo play, tap your opponent's creatures, and then get a flyer. Lonesome Unicorn will probably end up in a white deck. Left half mixed creatures, right half mixed creatures, so it's a pretty versatile card. Castle Embereth would go in any red aggressive deck. Help you pump your creatures in the late game. Tournament Grounds is a card that lets you cast Knights of Mardu colors, so that would be good. Bank into a Pie, premium removal spell. Castle Ardenvale makes creatures, so it's another good one of the rare lands in this set. I think that's the second Out Muscle, which was very, very good and limited in this set, so we'll probably end up playing those if we're touching a green deck. Alright, so we're coming up on the end of the pack opening segment here. Nothing super exciting out of this pack, so we will be back in a few seconds with the deck building. Hello and welcome back to episode 5 of Packs the Cube on the Eclectic Conjuring channel. Here for deck building with our special guest as usual, Dom the Bearded Guy. So we've done a quick review of the cards that we think the decks we think we're gonna end up building. We know we're gonna end up in some kind of green-black food deck. We ended up with the Feasting Troll King. He makes food when he comes in, and then you can sacrifice 3 food to return him from your graveyard to the battlefield. We also have the Bognaughty, which sacrifice a food and basically kill an opponent's creature. We have the Witch's Oven. So we have a whole lot of the food, the good food cards and good food payoffs.
And Trail of Crumbs.
Yeah, I forgot about Trail of Crumbs too, and that's one of the more important ones too. You can draw cards when you sacrifice food if you pay 1, so that's pretty good.
Right, and everything we're doing with food sacks it, even if we're not quote-unquote eating it with the food's ability, so we just, stack value on value.
Yep. So that we know we have that deck. We don't know 100% what the second deck is going to be. We're leaning towards Knights. We have a couple of the Knight payoffs. We have the Inspiring Veteran to pump all the Knights. We have the Tournament Grounds to help us cast them. We have the Wintermoor Commander, which can give a Knight, while it's attacking, indestructible. And then, what were the other Knight payoffs we had?
We have the Trebuchet, a common that lets you essentially do the Lobber Crew impersonation.
Yep, so whenever a Knight enters the battlefield, you untap it, and you can tap it to deal 1 damage to each opponent. So, we'll start by building the food deck, and then we'll see what happens after that. So we'll start by moving cards we know are in.
And while you're moving those, I'll just say we were excited to see a Mythic Rare Planeswalker with the Royal Scions, but we have literally 1 payoff for drawing your second card in a turn in this whole pool, which is the Mad Ratter. And that's a big theme for the blue-red deck, so it kind of falls flat without those.
Yep. But as we've talked about before, I love Izzet. This is going to get in the cube. I know it.
And this green-black deck is, in addition to being very synergistic, is going to just have a lot of powerful cards. I think it's going to wind up with like 5 rares between the 2 trolls, the Wicked Wolf, the Preserver, the 2-drop that we just put in, and there's at least 1 castle, if not both. We got quite a few of the castles in this box.
Yeah, we ended up with, looks like, the black one to help to draw cards, the red one, which pumps your team, and then the white one, which creates human tokens.
Oh, Piper of the Swarm can just win a limited game on its own, too, and that's going to be inside this already powerful and synergistic deck, so.
Yep.
With Lovestruck Beast, we're going to maybe try to have an extra 1/1 or 2 in our deck beyond what we would have, but I don't think that's going to be a problem.
Yeah. All right, so forgot our Bognaughty.
And then we've got removal in Epic Downfall, and we definitely want the Tempting Witch from the common pile in this deck. It's a good outlet for all the food that we're generating.
Bacon to a Pie. That's one of my favorite cards from this set. It's so flavorful.
Well, sure, you just get to hold it up like you're the Rock. And it's like, who wants pie? And then kill the creature. What could be better? So I think we want the Reeve Soul in this deck for sure. Probably playing for Foreboding Fruit, card draw plus food. something is going to play Forever Young. I'm guessing it's this deck. Unfortunately, we don't have the uncommon black legendary knight that is the 2-card combo with this, but can't get it all. And we have a lot of cards in those colors that we could fill if we needed to.
Yeah. Would we put the Kenrith transformation in? Probably not.
I mean, it's fine. It's definitely there to answer a huge thing, right? That you can't otherwise answer. This deck has a lot of ways to do that already.
Yeah.
And it's not a very good way, but it's all right.
All right. We'll put it in for now, and then it'll be first on the chopping block.
And so then we have to consider if we want the quad spells, since we're not playing the natural hybrid pair for either of them. Then we have the green-white hybrid, the blue-black hybrid. So those are going to cost 4 of the color of the deck that we put them in.
Mm-hmm.
The Oakham Ranger, I suppose, is possible to put in the Knight's deck, but if we're talking about 3 colors, it's going to have to be extremely heavily slanted white, because that thing's going to effectively cost like 8 mana
right.
by the time we can cast it. And I don't think we want any of the green or black at 4 of the specific color. They just don't do enough for us.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Worth noting that we're talking about not building a blue deck in this pool, which is a first. So
yeah,
don't say it never happened.
I almost don't.
So the mana creature, we definitely want Curious Pair. That's a very important card for the food deck. The mana creature below it can be an option, and it also can empower a little bit of splashing, but. We definitely want out muscle. That card is ridiculous. So this deck is just going to be able to kill everything. That Kenrith transformation is not in.
Okay.
That card is very good. Plus, it's something that doesn't cost $1 million, and I think we're loading up on that. So
yeah.
I'd put the Tree Folk in and the Carver as well. Tree Folk is better, but we're probably at about 40 cards now, but that's okay. The cabin makes food, so that's going to wind up in there.
Yeah, I think this whole cycle is going to make it in, mostly because I want to play the blue one. So making it.
And I think it's worth considering putting all the castles in, depending on what you want to do with the land slots in the cube at the end. But
yeah, agreed. So we're at 32 are lands. So we're at 28 effectively.
Okay, a few cuts, no biggie.
Yeah, and we already know one of them, which is the Kenrith transformation. Move you back to the uncommon pile. Let's change our sort to mana cost. We actually have a lot more lower drops than I thought we did.
We do, but we have to look at how many of them are actually early game plays, right? Forever Young really isn't, though you can at least cycle it. Forever Young might just be out of place here, honestly. We have a lot going on.
Yeah.
what are we willing to sacrifice to our witch's oven? We don't have anything that's natively recursive, so it's just going to have to eat real creatures.
Yeah, I think the only thing that regrows itself is Troll King, and would rather not sack there.
I think you could probably cut one of the mana creatures, the Rose Thorn Acolyte.
Okay.
How many 1/1s did we wind up with? Is Lovestruck Beast anything but a 5/5 wall on this deck?
I think so. Except for the one that it makes itself. Oh,
well, the rats. Okay, it's in.
Yeah, that works. Should I move Witch's Cottage over?
No, I don't like that card very much at all. Okay. I don't want to cost myself a draw step to get back a creature, and the land comes into play tap sometimes.
Okay. Is I think too many out muscle?
No, I think that we want all the removal spells that we can have. I think that the Carver could probably go. This isn't a deck that's going to want to pump its creatures very often.
Fair. So that puts us at 24. One more.
Tough. This deck is really tight now. I guess I would take out the Rose Thorn Acolyte. I mean, it really helps cast the Feasting Troll King. That's the big draw of it. But other than that, you don't really need the ramp, and the 2/3 doesn't do anything.
Okay.
I'd much rather have the witches on 3 than that if I had to pick.
All right. Well, we have a deck that was pretty much built itself.
Yeah, that's most of them. I mean, 5 rares will do that.
Yeah. So I'm going to start moving these over to...
You want to put that Spyglass on the maybe board too?
Yeah.
It's a good catch-all to have around. So it's worth noting that we're not playing Gingerbrew, and we do have Lovestruck Beast and a food theme. So that's a card that might be in there. And maybe just take the oven out. At least the Gingerbrew does something. Not much, but something.
We'll move a Witch's Oven to the maybe board for eventually when I finally get my way and get some Act of Treasons in here.
I mean, they're in pretty well every set. I'm sure that you'll win eventually.
Yeah. I'm still just waiting for that moment, though. All right, so let's start going to our Knights deck.
So we're going to build this as though it has proper fixing and then accommodate for that in the cube, correct?
Correct.
So we definitely want that giant killer, even though it's kind of off theme. It's just powerful. And then we just start grabbing our knights, right? Falmar Knight, Jousting Knight, I can see over there on the left. The Lance is a huge reason that we want to play all 3 colors. Jousting Dummy and the artifacts. So Smitten Swordmaster is a big deal, right? This thing drains our opponent for the number of knights we have and is a knight with lifelink to just throw out there. This is a deck that's going to want to get creatures back. So this deck probably is going to want that Forever Young, as well as the Barrow Witches that are a 5-mana creature that also bring a night card back when they come in. Very reminiscent of, I think the card was called War and Pilferers from Lorwyn. It did the same thing with goblins for the same mana cost. Serkera gives us a little card advantage, and that's never a bad thing.
We probably have things better than Shieldbreaker, I would guess, but
it's a good one to have on hand.
Yeah.
As well as the Slaying Fire is in there. I mean, that's just a quality removal, so.
Yeah. We're going to move Grumgully into the maybe board. That's a card that would probably fit into the cube somewhere.
Could be interesting.
We're going to try and play the Oakham Wager.
I really believe that this deck is going to be far too aggressive to play a quad white spell.
Okay.
Yeah, 3-color deck.
Glass Casket in.
Oh, for sure.
I'm going to move this over here in case we ever wanted to support any kind of Boggle theme.
That's you. I hate Boggle.
Some people like them.
That's fair. And I suppose there's enough grief already built into this cube that we can let people have their Voltrons.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we're getting to Fairy. What was it? 2 Agent of Treacheries are here.
There's a whole slew of Red Knights, too.
Yeah. Okay.
Fairy Godmother probably wants to be in this deck. It's just a good beatdown card.
Is this playable?
I don't think it is.
Yeah, I don't think so either. This is probably filler, and we'll probably cut it, but see how many.
No, those are not filler.
These, yeah.
That's basically a blinding beam on a 2/2 flyer. I mean, that card is great. Definitely want Lonesome Unicorn. Rimrock. There's a pump spell. Now, this is a deck that would like access to more than one pump spell, but I don't know that it's going to get it. Scorching Dragonfire is huge. Probably do play the Bargain in this deck, honestly. You're just going to be attacking with idiots quite often.
Not enough dwarves.
Just 1/7 dwarves is not 7/7 dwarves.
Trebuchet was in.
That card wins games.
Mm-hmm.
Between that and the Trebuchet and then the uncommon Legend, you just have a lot of ways to sneak through a few points after you've pressured.
Yep.
Really nice. I don't think we want Lost Legion, double black for a 2/2 vanilla. It's just not doing it for me.
Yeah.
Same thing, I don't think we want Lochthwain on the splash.
Okay. All right, so we're at 30.
Yeah, so one thing that we do have an artifact in here that's reminiscent of Aeolipile. It's Bubbling Cauldron that does colorless impersonation of a shock over 2 turns. This deck looks a little light on removal to me, and it might be interested in that card. Plus, I think it's not terrible to have access to if the cube winds up being kind of low power. Scalding Cauldron, sorry. We have 3 of them, actually. I don't think we want 3, but we might want 1.
All right, so we'll just fix that right away.
So we're at 30 spells at this point. So we're looking at 7 or maybe only 6 cuts, depending on how low we get the mana curve and how good the fixing is presumed to be.
Yeah.
We can basically count those Lonesome Unicorns as 3 drops, but we do have quite a bit of expensive stuff. So if that all makes it, we're leaning towards 17 land here for sure.
Right.
Not to mention that we have several adventure cards, so like the ability to have more mana so that we can cast an adventure and still cast a creature is not wasted here like it might be in other aggressive decks. I think we want to get rid of some of this top end, and my gut is that Ogre Errant is better than Ardenvale Paladin. I mean, almost all of your attacking creatures are going to be knights. We'd rather get them through than have a blocker.
Makes sense.
Is there anything that's not a knight that's cuttable here? It looks like no is the answer to that question.
Yeah. Do we want 2 Fairy Guide Mothers?
Oh, I think so. I mean, the fact that they give flying is just a huge deal.
Okay.
Plus, they stick around and blink. I think that card is key. I would get rid of the Bargain before I got rid of that.
That seems the answer is no.
All right, well, let's cut the Bargain while we're up here. And cut the Scalding Cauldron, because even though I think we're light on removal, we could just beat down and we can use player removal as our removal. Tricks, etc. Maybe we just get off Forever Young. We're just going to beat down. We don't need a long game plan. Our long game plan is that it's a short game. I'm really impressed that you didn't try to put Fling in this deck, by the way.
I saw it. I was playing Jumpstart for the first time this past weekend, and I got to win a game with Fling twice in a row against the same person. It was like, use the crappy wall that makes something unblockable, attack with that thing, double its power, and Fling. Good times.
So how many more cuts in this thing?
3.
Wow. All right, well, I'm looking to cut black cards that aren't super in line, unless we're thinking that the fixing is just going to be absolutely choice. Then I would get rid of the gold card, the black-white card. Okay. Because that card late is not very good. Whereas Smitten Swordmaster is, and the other 1-drop Foulmire Knight at least draws a card.
Okay. We'll put that into maybe, depending on how deep we go into night themes.
Sure.
Later on in the cube. So we're at 2 more then?
Yeah, I think I'm cutting... well, scroll up. Let's see how many low drops we actually have. Like, we're aggressive. We want to get on the board. I guess we can't afford to cut any Youthful Knights because we just need to have board presence or this deck doesn't do anything. We're not cutting tacticians. I guess we could cut an ogre errant. It's not that good. It's only okay. And we could cut a lonesome unicorn.
So last... No, wait, no, we're good.
Mm-hmm. That's why I stopped.
Perfect. Well, I was miscounting, but that's your job.
I just another service I provide, that's all.
So here we have our green-black food deck, which looks pretty bonkers. I would actually love to play that deck. And then we have a Mardu Knights deck. Not as excited about that, but still looks good. Looks super aggressive. We're following our themes of 0 mid-range.
Mid-range is a trap, right? Like, go big or go fast, but don't go in the middle, because then you just don't do anything in limited anyway.
Fair enough. And then we have all these for future. Probably going to end up sneaking the last couple of castles in here somehow. I don't know. Maybe they'll magically appear.
Yeah, and I think there's some blue cards that upon further review we might slide over into consideration for the cube, but not a deck, just because blue didn't get looked at today. I think the Royal Scions is going to make you want to have access to some more of the cards that are good in the draw 2 cards deck, and that tends to have instants. Having something like Hypnotic Sprite that can function as an instant or a creature in a deck that may not want to play too many actual creatures is kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
Opt, but we're going to have an opt. They're in every set. Fun stuff.
Yep. All right. Well, that's where we will stop for this episode. And you all take care, and we'll talk to you soon with Theros Beyond Death.
There we go.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.